Hey y'all, welcome back to Babeinlibrary. It's your girl Lisa, and today we're going to wrap up my June reading month. So I don't know about you all, but June seemed like it came in and it was peaceful and it settled in and it said, hey, I'm gonna give you everything I've got. Take your time, no rush. Because it felt like a kind of a long month, but for me, which I appreciate. I am a summer baby. I love the summer months. So the longer the summer is here, the happy I am. And my reading month kind of had some hits and some misses. So we'll talk about that. Starting with my favorite book of the month, which is going to be All Sinners Bleed by SA Cosby. SA Cosby has quickly become one of my auto-buy authors. The man does not miss. When I tell you, if he puts out a book, I'm going to buy it, and I'm damn sure going to see if it is in audiobook, which is how I read All Sinners Bleed. I actually did it mixed media, so I read it digitally because I just had to have my hands on it. I had to highlight. I had to consume that book with my eyeballs and with my earlobes, because Adam Lazare White paired with S.A. Cosby is gold. Like, it is gold standard. This is a crime mystery thriller that really is rooted in today's society. If you have any reservations about things that are going on in today's society, so whether that be police brutality, whether it be school shootings, if it is the discussion of removing Confederate statues, if it is, missing brown and black children, please know these are all content warnings for this book, and you need to either read with caution or not read at all, because this book goes there. Like, he said, I am going to make sure everybody is going to be uncomfortable reading it, because this is America, and if you decide that you're not going to face it in reality, you're going to face it in this book. There's this conversation of what a villain looks like and what their motivations are. Our main character, Titus, is flawed as a main character, which is something that I appreciate. He is a black man that was formerly an FBI agent, and he came back to his small town or his hometown to become a sheriff. He won a special election and now holds that place. And obviously there is so much turmoil with his now newly found sheriff position. If this sounds like something that's of interest to you, please pick it up. Again, be mindful of your trigger warnings, the content that is being shared. But when I tell you it is exceptional, I would encourage you to pick it up and listen to it through the audio format. My second favorite of the month has to be J.L. Seeger's Part 2 of Revive Me, The Affair. And this is exactly what you think it is. I did a video recommending the cheating trope, right? So again, I'm going to, just as I did in that video, which I will link up above, I do not condone cheating in real life, but in a fictional book, I'm going to eat it up like cotton candy, and especially if it is done by J.L. Seegers. Like, Janelle put her whole foot into this book and then proceeded to ram it down our throats. This is a second story of Chris and Mallory, who are lovers that transcend all except Chris's father, Reese. Reese is the ultimate villain, and if I see him in the street, he would be in line right behind Sloan Mama from Restore Me to get these hands, because that man is absolutely scum on the bottom of my shoe, and he's got an ass woman coming his way. Like, oh, this book took it out of me. You know that you get to see Chris in book one. Him and Mallory fall in love, but Chris has always been kind of the golden child of his father. His father has destined for him to marry someone and for him to take over the company and for him to lead a life that was not his own, but the choices and the direction of his father. And so in the last story, you have a cliffhanger where he really loves Mallory and he wants to sacrifice everything, but the one thing he's not willing to sacrifice is Mallory's well-being, and that is what comes into question. So in this book, he is going about following his father's wishes, but it starts off with Eric, who is Mallory's twin brother. It starts off with his murder, and so Chris gets winds of this, and he decides to return to New Haven, only to see a glimpse of Mallory and to pay his respects. Mallory catches him in the crowd, and from there she's like, I've got questions and I'm assuming you have answers, and it picks up from there, and they have this affair that is only supposed to last a week. I don't want to spoil too much, but this has mystery and intrigue. It has romance, but it has spice. It has everything that I wanted in a sequel to Chris and Mallory's story. If you have not read Restore Me, I would tell you read this series in order, the New Haven series, because it all interwoven and it's connected. So read Restore Me, then come and read Revive Me Part 1 before you get to this one, because it will all click. Now, those were my two highest. Those were two 5-star reads that I had this month. So I'm going to actually do the exact opposite, and I'm going to go to my lowest rating read. Going from my highest star reads down to my lowest star read, I'm going to tell you C.E. Ricky's Follow the River was a 2.75 read for me. I really had high expectations. One, because I see so many people recommend this book. So many people love it. I also read Don't You Dare, which was very good to me. It was, the thing that really set my expectations through the roof, because I loved it. It was a friends to lovers sports romance that just hit it out the ballpark for me. Whereas, pun intended. Whereas Follow the River really did not land. I felt that the two main characters, you've got River and Rain. River is the quarterback, and he is kind of the golden boy within the football team. So Rain has just moved to the town and is joining the team. And River is like, not only am I attracted to him, but me and him are going to mesh really well. He is a top athlete. He is going to bring so much life to the team, and he is going to take us to this championship. I want to be his friend. So outside of my attraction to him, I want to befriend this person so that way we can take our team all the way. And so everything is moving and grooving until Rain finds out that River is bisexual. And he then starts to say, oh, I don't want to be his friend. I actually dislike this guy. I think he's trying to put the moves on me. And he starts to bully River. Okay, so that was part of the thing that I, reading it, I was like, okay, I'm going to like this enemies to lovers. I'm going to like kind of a little bit of the bullying until he realizes he, really wants to be with this person, and that's what his attraction was. That sounded like a great time to me. However, this felt really forced. And I don't necessarily mean forced in terms of the forced proximity it was going to be. Yes, we knew that the coach was going to put them into a log cabin, tell them to get their ish together because they lost the season and they lost the championship, which led them to having to be in a situation where they needed to be secluded to really work through their issues. That's all fine and dandy. But I feel like CE wrote this and just really was trying to get to the spice and didn't develop their relationship. For some reason, Rain just got progressively worse in terms of his backstory. I truly understand. Now, don't get me wrong. This backstory of this character, it makes so much sense why he had an aversion to, being attracted to men. There is some heavy things that happen in this book. So please note, essentially, there's a backstory for Rain that really is difficult to read on page. And there are some trigger warnings for, I'll just have to put it out there. If this is a spoiler to you, please know that I don't believe that C.E. Ricky either puts it in there or it's, kind of convoluted. But there are some trigger warnings that you do need to be mindful of. One being child molestation. It goes there on page. All that considered, I definitely understand why pushing River away. But honestly, River did not deserve the treatment that Rain gave him, especially when River just wanted to be there for him. So enough about that book. I am going to go back to my 4 stars, and let's talk about Seduced by the Moon by Kenya Wright. This is a paranormal shifter romance between Aiden and Imani. This is a motorcycle club that has fated mates, that the lore is amazing and spectacular. I'm going to tell you, this took me by surprise. So Kenya Wright usually has mafia situations. I've seen dark romance from her, but this one is very different. So I think this is her first paranormal romance in which she takes the time to craft the lore and the legend. Aiden is the pack leader for his particular wolf shifter coven, and he has this law that he's like, hey, we're going to settle down in the town. We all are going to find our mates. But the one law that I have is you cannot mate with a human. That was before he meets Imani. And Imani is working at this local diner, and the pack comes in every single day. They'll order raw steaks, and she's like, hey, they leave me such a good tip, but there's somebody that's coming in that she has an instant attraction to and she's never met, and that guy is Aiden. Now Aiden smells her and he's like, shoot, I think this is the woman for me. She's human. I need to stay away from her. But what he winds up figuring out is that not only is she his mate, but she is going to be the center of a prophecy that is going to change the life of him and his pack forever within the paranormal community. And she is pretty much going to elevate their pack status to levels that they've never seen before. And there are witches in this story. There's a witch named Raven, and she's going to get a story with one of the pack mates that I am like aching to read, because she also was the oracle that kind of foresaw all of this. One of the things I will say, there are some beautiful illustrations in this book that I want to put up a couple of pictures here. This also extremely intrigued me. I'd have to get a physical copy. If you all are fans of wolf romance, so if you were watching Twilight and you wanted more of the Colettes, like Jacob running out of the door and bursting into a wolf, there is a scene in this book just like that. Another 4-star read for me is going to be Delilah Green Doesn't Care by Ashley Herring Blake. So I had been hearing really great things about this. Everyone was loving this. This is a sapphic, small town, single parent romance. This is between Claire and Delilah. This is where Delilah has been living in New York. She is a photographer, making her dreams come true. Her stepsister calls her and like, I'm getting married. Mom is paying you a small fortune for you to come do this photography. I need you here at my wedding. And she meets Claire at the bar. Now, Claire has been in a rut since she had her child. Her daughter is 5 years old, and she hasn't necessarily, after she's dealt with the father of her child, she hasn't necessarily put herself back on the market for her to date people. And her friends are like, you need to just get back on the horse. And she decides, okay, tonight's the night. And so she sees Delilah at the bar, not remembering who she is. She starts to hit on her, but Delilah knows who she is. And she's like, I'm going to have a little fun with her. And what better way to get at my sister than to sleep with one of her best friends? And so from there, this attraction starts to play until Claire realizes, oh shoot, this is Delilah. This book right here has some of the best single parent representation that I've ever seen in terms of single parents when you all are dealing with a man-child or someone who is unreliable, and you have to be able to navigate that waters, and you tend to be not only the single parent, but you also turn out to be the bad guy to your child, because you have to be the enforcer, you have to be the disciplinarian. And so they don't look at you at that particular light in which you just want the best for them, and you have to be able to make the decisions on their behalf because you don't have that support. You get to see that this is feminist as well. Like, this book right here let me know that Ashley Herring Blake was like, no, she probably hates men. And each one of the books in the series have a theme of these women were dealing with men until they saw the light and were like, women are the way to go. Speaking of books that are feminist, I'm going to tell you that I read A Lady for the Duke by Alexis Hall. This is a Friends to Lover historical romance featuring a trans main character. So you've got Viola Carroll, who goes off and is declared dead in the war. And so from there, she really truly decides, I'm going to reemerge as Viola Carroll, the woman that I was always meant to be. I'm going to live out my life as I can't recall if it's like a lady in waiting or a companion, I believe, but she decided she's going to live her life on her own terms until her sister-in-law gets a letter saying that the Duke isn't doing well and that his sister is calling for their help. Now, Viola doesn't want to go visit Justin Gracewood, the Duke, because there's too many things unsaid between the two. She doesn't want to be recognized by him because she doesn't know how he will perceive her, but she knows that she needs to go help her friend, and she's the only one that's going to be able to bring him out of this slump, because he is grieving the loss of the person that he felt nearest and dearest in the world, which was his best friend. And so this is their romance. And I'm going to tell you that the first, like 80% of this book was spectacular. It was fantastic. This is a slow burn friends to lover in which you get to see that their friendship really cemented and evolved into a love that was unbreakable and unshakable. You've got PTSD representation, you've got disability representation, you have body dysmorphia, but the last 20% I really could have truly lived without. Like, once these two got together, because it was such a slow romance, I just really wish we would have cut it off there. I personally am rating this a 3.5. I loved their relationship and I love their friendship, but there were some things that I did not necessarily agree with from a writing standpoint, but I do highly recommend this. I do think that this was groundbreaking for the historical romance genre, and that if you're looking for friends to lover, there is no better friends to lover book that I can think of off the top of my head than this one. The closest friends to lovers book, because at this point I'm in my friends to lovers bag. There's 2 other friends to lovers books that I read this month. I think the closest that's going to be to A Lady for a Duke is going to be Ache by Marley Valentine. This is a friends to lovers that also is a cheating romance. So this falls under 2 videos that I read this month. Woo! This was a 4.5 star rating. Like, this book truly was everything I needed and more. Like, this is the story of Jordan being in love with his best friend this entire time. Gael is getting married, and Jordan decides, hey, I'm going to take you on a trip to Vegas for our last hurrah. I'm your best man, and I will stand by you from now until forever if you decide to go through with this wedding. But in the off chance that there is something between us, I do want to explore it. I'm going to take you to Vegas and see if I can, express my feelings and see how this works. And Gael reciprocates those feelings until they go on this race car excursion, and Gael gets into an accident and has amnesia and does not recall the last 24 to 48 hours. So this is an amnesia trope as well. But one thing he knows is that something has happened, and his fiance as well as his best friend are acting kind of weird, and he's not sure what took place, and he's asking for the help to piece it together. It's one of those situations where, do I tell him that he actually is in love with me and we decided to be together? Do I not and hope that he's, sees that he still wants to be with me and he doesn't decide to get married? Or do I not force the issue and just say that I enjoyed the 24 to 48 hours that we had together? I also read this month The Perfect Find by Tia Williams. This is an older woman, younger man, workplace romance that has a little bit forbidden elements because his mother is also Jenna's boss. This right here is probably the most complicated book that I had this month, that I was like, ooh, there's parts that I really love and there's parts that I am struggling with. Jenna is not necessarily my favorite character, but Eric is my favorite character, and Eric loves Jenna. So I'm going to tell you that I'm going to stick beside the two. This has a adaptation on Netflix that if you read this, this is the source material for that. Jenna is recently coming to a large breakup with her ex, who she's been with for the last 20 years. She also needs to find a new job in the fashion industry. She used to be a journalist. Obviously, that is a dying art form. And so she's trying to figure out a way back in the industry and to find her spark again in the fashion world when she believes that everything left her behind. And so she is trying to experience so much of life that she's missed out on, trying to start her career over. And she meets Eric. They actually meet at a party, and she doesn't necessarily know who he is. She just knows he's attracted. They have a makeout session in the club until the next day. She's at work, and he walks into her office, and her boss says, "Hey, do you remember my son? He's coming to work with you on this particular project." So it is forced proximity. This is some of the funniest writing that I have read, definitely all month, maybe even all year. However, the ending of this book made me want to throw it across the wall. I have thoughts about this book. I have a vlog that's coming out shortly, so if you want to hear more of my thoughts, please watch that to get a full understanding of how I feel about Tia Williams, The Perfect Find. I then will also talk to you about April Renegade by B.G. Wolf. That is a friends to lover rockstar romance. Last month, in the month of May, I told you I was really in my rockstar element. And so rockstar, friends to lover, two tropes that are heavily on my mind. So I was like, let me see what April Renegade is talking about. This is a situation that also is a cheating trope. If you see, I am in a repeated theme. This is the romance between Asher and Dean, who met each other at a Blink-182 concert. And at the time, Dean was in a relationship, and he invited Asher over. They found out that Asher really had a difficult home life, and so they became friends, and Asher needed to find a place to stay. So Dean allowed him to come live with him, and from there they started their rock band together. Since then, Asher has not necessarily experienced much in life, but one of the things he did is find an attraction in Dean. And so Dean was his first and his everything. However, he wasn't ready to take it to the next level with Dean, and he didn't want to break up the band. And so he felt like he was forced to put on this act for his fans. And so he decided to get in a relationship. And when he was in that relationship with this particular model, it just kept going and going and going until it was an unmovable train, and he proposed. This started to break Dean's heart. And there you get to see Dean is like, "Hey, I love you and I will always love you, but I can't do this anymore." And so it leaves Asher to make a decision. This has really good flashback scenes. So you've got flashback scenes to see how their friendship developed and how their relationship developed versus the present. And it really gave me a good sense of their timeline and their history, because it spans 10 years. This is a 10-year on and off again situation, to where the emotions become extremely complex and extremely intertwined. Their lives are so centered with one another that you get to see why it's built up and led to this point. That concludes all of the books that I've read this month. If you've read one of these, let me know what your thoughts was. Leave me a Statue of Liberty for Tia Williams, The Perfect Find, and I'll talk to you all next time. Bye.